Thank you for joining us, guys. I'm joined by Congressman Cliff Bentz today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
And just tell me a little bit, we were talking earlier, what are you doing in town? What are you doing while you're here?
Well, the primary goal is to talk with people about the things that we've been doing back in Washington, D.C., and to make sure that the local leaders and others are aware of what we've done and then aware of the fact that we're available to try to help. One of the biggest things that just happened yesterday morning was the $197.3 million that's a part of what the big beautiful bill allocated to rural hospitals. And we weren't sure how much Oregon was going to receive. We knew we'd get $100 million, we thought pretty much for sure, but we weren't sure how much of the other portion of money that was available for innovative ideas we were going to end up with. And we ended up with 97.3 for that portion. So that's for this year, or I think this coming year. And then we'll have another opportunity over the next 4 years for the same amount or some variation thereof. So I met yesterday with the St. Charles CEO and others, and we just learned an hour earlier about this. So we were talking about what we could do to try to help in utilizing this money in a way that helps small rural hospitals survive. That's what we're really talking about. And that's consistent with my conversations with Dr. Oz. I've talked to him 4 times about what we need here in Oregon, and he's been more than willing to help. So that was one. And then I met with Pacific Corp and went over some of the challenges we have right now when it comes to your electrical power supply here in this area. You don't have enough power here. We don't have enough power in all of the Northwest. And so the question to expand, to grow, and that's not good news for the economy or otherwise. So we met with people not only here, but more recently down in Medford and other parts of my district on these exact issues. And so on the wolf, which has been a huge issue out in the remote parts of the state, and frankly, actually closer to here, we will be meeting with various people to talk about that later today, and the hope that our bill that we just got passed across the floor of the House to delist, which by the way is consistent with all of the 4 last administrations, Republican and Democrat, to delist the wolf and let the state of Oregon manage it. So we'll be talking about that with other people.
Who you just sticking with that topic, because I know we've talked about before. Who are you meeting with, like farmers, or if you can't say it? So.
Well, no, I'm happy to say county commissioners mainly this time around. And last time I was here, we had a town hall meeting in Prineville. We had one in Redmond. We've had a bunch of town hall meetings on the wolf down in Klamath Falls and other places, because it's a huge challenge for a rancher to be unable to protect his or her cattle. And if you catch a wolf killing something, then you can act. But that's not how wolves work. They operate at night and when people aren't around. And so the challenge is twofold. One, how to manage the number of wolves. We know we're going to have wolves. They're back. The challenge is the right number. And then the second part is, how do we make sure that those who are bearing these costs are reimbursed appropriately? And so that's what I'm working on. But there's many other things here I wanted to meet with the county roadmaster and talk about the Secure Rural Schools bill, which I helped get passed. It's huge for Oregon counties. And so it did not get passed last year. We did get it passed this year with kind of a look-back feature in it to help pay some of the money we should have received last year. We'll get money for this year, and we'll get money for next year. So that was a huge deal. It's a so-called SRS bill. Very, very happy for getting that done. And then there's other things that are important to Deschutes County and Cook County. Jefferson, all these counties that are partially or all in my district.
And I just wanted to go back to yesterday. You were talking about yesterday with the rural, I forget, what exactly is the name of the Rural Health Transportation Bill? Transformation Bill. Yeah, that was a huge story yesterday that we were talking about. Like you said, $197 million. From what I was reading and talking with Oregon Health Authority about what they want to do, a lot of it is make sure the staffing, technology, but can you just talk about what you talked with them about? You know, the money, like you said, is going to rural hospitals, but what exactly, you know, what would you like to see it go to?
So really, I should quote Dr. Oz, because he was hugely involved in determining the format of the application that OHA, Oregon Health Authority, filed in asking for a portion of this $50 billion. And so what Dr. Oz had focused upon is the fact that rural hospitals have to meet the times, if you will. They have to be able to update with appropriate artificial intelligence features, with appropriate features that address the ever-increasing cost of personnel, because that's about 70-80% of cost in hospitals is just people. And so how in the world do we maintain the essential elements of healthcare and empathy and high quality care, while at the same time understanding these increasing costs have to be addressed? And we can't offer every type of service in every small town. We just can't. The cost is too great to have all of the incredibly amazing equipment that we have here at St. Charles or over in Boise or up in Tri-Cities or up in Portland. That's where these really multi-million-dollar machines will be. And the question is, how do we make sure everybody across the state enjoys access to them? So that's what the conversation should be. It's going to be how in the world, in a remote area like Burns, Oregon, or like Lakeview, like John Day, all these cities in my district, the people in them are receiving the type of care that folks get in other parts of the state. And of course, distance and money is a huge issue, and that's we'll be talking about both in these conversations. And the good news is we have some great, smart people thinking about it, and more importantly, we have money now to make it worthwhile. I know that the state of Oregon has allocated about 20%, 10% to administration overhead and this and that. I'm not sure what that is, and we'll be looking into it because that's a lot of money. We just need to make sure we use this money as wisely as we possibly can, because this is the whole idea here is let's figure out how to make our healthcare in rural areas better. That's the idea.
And so do you worry, so I guess, you know, once the grant goes to OHA, there's not a whole lot you can do with it after. Do you worry that it's misspent, or would you like to see, you know, more oversight from the federal government? I know there was some sort of scorecard based on, you know, what policy states are enacting. But basically, do you worry about how the money's spent, or do you think there's enough kind of rules attached to it?
Well, the rules are in the process of being developed as we speak, and so I haven't seen the criteria yet that are going to be applied to how the money is going to be spent. I have not seen that, but I have spoken with Dr. Oz, as I said, 4 separate times about making sure that the money makes its way in one way or another to these rural hospitals. That's what it's for. And so one of my conditions, if you will, of supporting the big bill was my conversation with Dr. Oz, saying exactly what you're saying. We want to make sure when this money comes to Oregon, it doesn't somehow end up being spent in Portland. It needs to be spent in a way that improves care in our rural portions of the state. We just don't have this kind of money in our rural portions of the state, so let's use it as best we can. My specific statement to Dr. Oz in conversation with him on at least the first 3 occasions was, look, Doctor, we need to make it clear to OHA, Oregon Health Authority, that this money needs to be spent on rural health care. And if it's not, then there's 4 more years coming. And that's when we would say to OHA, you didn't do this right. And so I don't want to do that. I want to be able to say, you did great. And in fact, hopefully get more money for Oregon because it's smart enough to have figured out how to address what I've been saying, less cost, better care.